Obviously, we've got a great challenge this week with Mississippi State, and really looking at them. This is an extremely talented, very well-coached football team, and we will certainly have our challenges with them coming in here for our first SEC game. And it'll be a great, another great measuring tool for us to see exactly where we are, obviously, when it comes to competing in this conference. So we've got a lot of improvement to make. Usually you see that between your first and second week. We're hoping that that's going to be the case with us. We certainly have a ton of room for improvement, and we fully expect to do that. So it'll be a great, again, be a great SEC opener for us, and we expect to see a lot of improvement. I think it was a mixture of some things. I think it was we weren't as physical as we needed to be. I don't think there's any question about that. I feel like there was some mental errors out there that really kept us from getting off the field several different times, in terms of anything from alignments to leverages, technique, just really from top to bottom, pretty lackluster performance in my opinion. But again, we were able to look at all those over the weekend and really work towards getting some of those corrected. But overall, again, as I said Saturday after the game, we're happy that we came away with a win. And so I think there's a lot of great learning moments for all of our kids on every side of the football. When it comes to to being a championship caliber team, you got to find ways to win, and they usually come in a lot of different ways. Certainly last year, which we're not reflecting back on, but last year as an example, we found different ways to win games at the end, several different ways. What you don't know moving on to this year is how a young team will respond when things aren't looking very good. And but the good news is they saw what it looked like the year before. At least half the team did. So our expectation in a football game, as we talk about all the time, is we're not looking at the scoreboard. We're looking at individually what we have to do during the game to play better and execute better, and really take it one play at a time. We work situations constantly here. We talk situations constantly here, because you never know when the onside kick is going to have to come up, and you're going to have to execute it perfectly. But we work those things relentlessly. We work different things during practice that are going to happen in a ball game. Some, much fewer than others. But when we do, come upon those situations, we have to execute them. So, all that being said, you've got to look back and try to take some positives from the game. And one of the positives was that they didn't panic, that we weren't playing well much of the game. But at the end, when we had to do some things to win the game, we were able to take those situations we work in practice and apply it on game day with a lot of young people, and we were able to win. Now, we don't prefer to be in that every week, as you all know. But at the end of the day, it was what it was. And we got to continue to improve, and we got to continue to play until the clock says 0 on it. And our team's always going to do that. And so again, pulling some positives from Saturday, we were able at the end of the game to have a pretty great rally there, in the last 2 or 3 minutes, and come up with a win. When I say lackluster, I'm putting the whole everything into perspective, meaning the mental part of the game, the physical part of the game. When the other football team controls the clock and the possession time, by that much, there's concerns there. And so, yes, some of it was the physicality of the game. Some of it was, the mental part of the game, the execution, of the calls made. Again, great learning moments, and I fully expect us to be better at it this week. Paramount. It's of the utmost importance. If we don't do anything else better we better be more physical than we were last week, all the way around. And again, you know, you can look at the physicality of our special teams and some of the things that we do on special teams, and it's more in line with, you know, where we need to be. So our special teams are made up of offensive players and defensive players, same guys that play on offense and defense. So we've got it in us. We've got to be that on both sides of the ball when it comes to offense and defense. Sure, I don't think there's any question that part of the physicality of the game, you know, when you're a defensive player, you know, you're physical when you don't have to think very much. You know, well, same thing goes with the offensive line. You know, same thing goes with running backs, you know, hitting the ball downhill. And the less they have to think, because it becomes more of a you know, second nature type, muscle memory type action, then the more physical you can be in play. And that's why I fully expect us to be much better this week, you know, versus last week. Because again, you know, they've got a game under their belt. They understand, you know, all of the, you know, different things that, you know, are going to happen during the game, the speed of the game. But again, experience, there's no substitute for it. So I think there's no question that was part, you know, of our part of our problem when it came to the physicality of the game. And let me make this clear: it wasn't every single part of our existence out there on both sides of the ball. There were moments when we really, you know, it looked like it should have looked, but over a 60-minute span, it was not what we wanted. Yeah, absolutely. It's part of, you know, the bottom line is we've got to have our team playing faster. You know, we've got to play faster. And, you know, so again, anytime you can eliminate any, you know, second or third thought process, you know, it's going to allow you to do that. So that's part of the plan. And, you know, again, had a really good practice yesterday. I thought they were focused. I thought they understood. You know, a lot of guys saw their own game film for the first time ever. And I think there was a lot of points made everywhere on all sides of the ball and special teams of, you know, this is not going to win, you know, at this level. And I think so. I think it was eye-opening to a lot of our guys. And again, you know, that's why you know, we'll expect them to be much better this week. No question, the first down is huge, you know, in this game. For defense, you know, anything with a 3-yard stop or less is usually a win on first down. Anything more than that, you're putting yourself in a bind in the next 2 downs. So first down defense will be huge. But at the end of the day, and that'll be huge because if you go back to Saturday, we put ourselves in so many 3rd and shorts. You know what I mean? That, you know, we won't be able to, you know, we won't be able to play good defense if we're in 3rd and short, you know, a good bit Saturday. And it's just the way, you know, it's just the way it is. So first down is critical. There's no question about it. But when we get our opportunities in 3rd down, we got to get off the field, and we didn't do that Saturday. The problem with playing high is that, you know, usually those inside guys, and it probably was coming from our inside defensive linemen, which is where we were encountering the problem. You know, when you play high down there on the inside, a lot of times you're encountering double teams, so you got 640 pounds versus your 290. And, you know, the higher you are, the less chance you have of being able to set a point and hold a point to be able to sustain the line of scrimmage. So they were playing high, getting knocked off the ball some. And again, you know, as a defensive lineman, your job is to establish a new line of scrimmage or play on their side of the line of scrimmage. Well, when your pads are up and theirs are under yours, you're going to go backwards. So that's not a good thing. So they saw it. It was great. Again, great teaching moments for our young guys. And they'll get better with that. But I think now they understand in game situations the importance of low pad level and coming off the ball full speed, because you know, again, when you're getting those double teams with 600+ pounds right now, you don't want to be going backwards. And that's what we were doing Saturday. So picture's worth 1,000 words, kindergarten saying, right? You know, but very true. And, you know, again, they watch a ton of film in practice. But now all of a sudden, you know, watching the game film against other people they don't know, you know, it's very glaring. And, you know, what's very glaring in a position meeting room, when it's just your position, you know, it's very glaring when you do something great, when you do something really poor, and everybody in there sees it. You know, there's no hiding from it. So I think it's a huge you know, it's a huge teaching moment and teaching tool for these guys. Again, we had a lot of guys that have never seen themselves on game tape. You know, so I think that those pictures were worth, you know, a lot of words.